Good. Right. Welcome, assembled masses of the decorum community, and a full range of officers, by the looks of it, very, very nearly. So, Cabinet on the 23rd of July, starting with minutes from the last Cabinet, date I can't remember.
It is the 18th of June.
The 18th of June, yeah. Agree the minutes?
Agreed.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Any apologies for absence? I've got Councillor Ron Tyndall, as you can see there. Anybody else? I think Chief Exec is on her way somewhere, isn't she? Yes. So we've got the pleasure of Aidan here instead. Thank you. Declarations of interest, are there any?
No, thank you, Chair.
No declarations. Very good. There is no public participation. Looking around the room, we're all members of the public, aren't we? But not in that way. There are no referrals to Cabinet, I don't think. Is there anything hot off the press? No. Good. So, do we agree the Cabinet forward plan? Do we have anything else to go on?
Nothing further. Oh, hang on a second, I'm getting them to you.
Can we add the first quarter finance report to the September Cabinet forward plan? It was on there previously, I'm not sure why it slipped on.
Okay. Sounds like a good shout. And also, since you mentioned it, Nigel, I did notice something called the MFSTS or something. It's not quite the MTFS. But that could be dangerous, couldn't it, if we get that acronym in the wrong order.
I'm not sure what MFTS is, so yes, we'll have to change that to MTFS.
Kind of furniture. Might be wrong. Sorry to be particular about the letters in the right order. It's a terrible habit. So our first substantive item is item number 7, the seal.
Yeah, sorry, just an amendment from me as well. Could we move the local plan? Sorry, this needs bringing up to date. It should read the 22nd of October. Councillor Wilkie and I are just working on the timescale of the committees, but that needs to be, and sorry, not to be pedantic, but on that MTFS, I think we ought to spell it out in full because this is a public document, so medium-term financial strategy. So perhaps if Lena can take that away, thank you.
Yeah. So, thank you. Now we're going to move on to item 7, which is the SIL review relating to Breakspear School. And I think it's Councillor Sharon Wilkie, or perhaps it's James. Is anybody going to introduce? I'm not sure who's going to do that.
I'll leave you, James, to introduce. Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I couldn't quite hear what you said. I could hear you said my name. So yes, it is by paper. We're happy for James to make an introduction, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Right, so this report is the final step through the Council's governance to the approval of an award of just under £1.4 million to Hertfordshire County Council towards the provision of a special educational needs school, the new school in the Three Rivers area. Chair, this has gone through our SIL governance, and the critical points with that is to go through something called the Infrastructure Advisory Group, which is detailed in the report. That looks in detail at the proposal, the business case for it. This went through the IOG a couple of times as the group had questions first time round, and the full bid at that time was deemed to be rather too much, bearing in mind that the council had identified in the region of £3 million from its core SIL receipts for projects and so on. Some work went on between officers of this council and the county council, and the projections for the need for the school were looked at in terms of the numbers of homes and therefore the numbers of children that would, from this borough, that would put sort of pressure on school places. So the compromise position reached by the AAG was to approve the figure which is mentioned in the report. This went to Strategic Planning, Environment Overview and Scrutiny meeting last week. I think it's fair to say that there was extensive debate at that meeting. I think there were some of the members at that meeting did feel that the council should be making the full amount available. And there was an agreement by that committee, a motion, I think, to state that the committee supports the amount, the 1.364 million in total to go to the Breakspear School, but requests that the Cabinet give serious consideration to increasing the allocation in view of the cause concern. So that is the view of the committee going back to your committee, your Cabinet committee here, Chair. So this is within Cabinet's gift. Cabinet has the final sign-off of the amounts. We are at any time as a council, because we are the collection authority and we're the awarding authority for SIL, so we can make decisions on SIL at any point. One route open to Cabinet, should it choose, is to refer the matter back to the Infrastructure Advisory Group, should you wish, because we can make further awards. But we would have to rerun the available figures that we've actually got at the time, really, because we have already committed some of that initial allocation to other projects, particularly for school playgrounds. Other than that, Chair, the recommendation is as in the report, which is on, I think, page 7 of the agenda, and that is to agree the allocation of the figure, which is just under 1.4 million, to the relocation of the school. Thank you, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, James. Are there any comments? No? I mean, I think my comment would be that we have the IAG for a reason, and a lot of work goes into its deliberations. So I don't particularly see a reason to second guess that at this point. And I dare say it won't be the last time that we're considering what the IAG decides we ought to spend from SIL. So I'm happy with that. Are we happy to take the
Thank you, Chair, for those
recommendations?
comments. So I'll pass them back, because they did do a lot of work.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah, thank you to the officers. That's agreed.
Agreed.
Very good. Okay. So moving on to the second, item 8, which is the Hemel Health Campus, which is again the place portfolio, and it could be James again, just to introduce that item.
Right, thank you.
Make a wild guess.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Well, the report is in the name of myself and Catherine as well. You'll see from the papers that in this project, Catherine and I are the joint project sponsors from the decorum side. So I think Cabinet is familiar with the proposals, and the report is quite technical, Chair. You'll see appended to the report, members, that there is the project initiation document and the governance on the decorum side on this. So just a brief reminder, this is a joint project between the Council, the Herts and West Essex Integrated Care Board and the West Herts Teaching Hospitals Trust to undertake feasibility to look at building a new health campus on the Market Square, Hemel Hempstead, which, as members I'm sure know, is in the ownership of the Borough Council. So a lot of work has taken place following some initial feasibility work done last year at a very high level. So Catherine and I and the officer team working with the ICB and the Hospitals Trust have produced the draft project initiation document here, which is here for your information and consideration. The main ask of the report, you'll see there are 3 recommendations to agree the next stage of the feasibility work, but crucially to approve an allocation of 200,000 from the Decorum Development Reserve to fund the council's share of the costs moving forward. And the third one is then to make delegations through to myself in liaison with the Portfolio of Place and our AD for Legal and Democratic to enter into a memorandum of understanding with our 2 other NHS partners. That work on that MOU, Chair, is well underway now. Again, similar to the last item, this went through strategic planning and environment overview and scrutiny last Monday, where there was a lot of debate and some feedback. I think that's perhaps best summarised. The main takeaways I took from that meeting was that some members felt that the site was a little bit too small. There were questions raised about parking and the availability of parking. There was a comment from another member about, is this the right place for that? I'll come back to that in a moment, Chair. But the main point here is, members, that it's this piece of work that's going to answer a lot of the questions that were raised there, and indeed by members of the Health and Wellbeing Committee on Thursday evening as well, where I attended that meeting along with officers from the Hospitals Trust and the ICB as well. I think at that committee, and Councillor Wilkie might like to comment, she was there as were you, Chair, that meeting, that questions were again raised by some of the ex officio members of the group, the patient group members there, about whether we should be looking at alternative sites. Now, it's very clear, members, that this is a project to look at the Market Square. The question that was put was, well, this was looked at some years ago with the Hospitals Trust when they were looking at redevelopment within the Hemel Hospital site itself. I think the landscape has changed now where we're looking at this, and the hospital at the moment don't intend to redevelop within that area. That's why they want to look at this area. The safeguard here, I think, for everyone is that the next stage of the project planning here, the feasibility work, is the NHS have to do that work anyway to comply with their own NHS business planning procedures. So there will be a piece of work to do that. The other main takeaway, I'm looking at Councillor Wilkie here from the patient groups, was there was a request for co-production of the project. So I have reached out already to our NHS partners about scoping that out for the next stages of the work. With this, a big product of that work will be, looking at Catherine here, so a detailed project plan, appointment of a project manager, and a whole series of detailed consultancy reports to inform the partners on the feasibility. So I think I'll pause there. Chair, through you, whether Catherine would like to add anything to that as well. We're joint project sponsor.
Summarise it fully. Thanks, James.
Any comments from the?
No, I think thank you, Chair. I think, and thank you for that summary, James. It's really concise and helpful. I think you were here at both meetings, so you know what.
Yeah, I was online at one. I heard
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
what James is referring to. There were some concerns raised about parking or staff parking and things like that, which I think are valid points. I think hopefully the feasibility study will consider those as part of the remit. And then, as James said at the Health and Wellbeing meeting, it did centre around whether this should even be considered as a site. But I think the context of that was the historical context of when we were considering a hospital as well. So I think we were able to allay the fears of the members there, and the, what do we call it, the
Co-production.
Co-production was the bigger takeaway for me. So we did see the officers out from our health partners and say, so look, is this something you could please consider? And I know from James's summary that he's already reached out to them, which is brilliant, because I think what will be important is that we get that cooperation. So I would commend the report and the recommendations to you, please, Chair.
thank you. What I would say about this is that I think what this illustrates is what a council can do when it puts some of its land on the table and some of its money on the table. We can get partners who, let's be honest, have a lot more money than we do to do this, to put their money on the table as well. So it's a bit like being at the poker table or at the game table, which I think is exactly where we want to be. Not to prejudge the feasibility report, because you should never do that, but the feasibility that we've done, and as frustrating as I find feasibility, it puts you in a good place if it says yes, this is going to work. So it's a good way of progressing. And you know, I'm optimistic, and I encouraged the people who comment on health in decorum to to see that this is an attempt to do something positive. And if we hadn't done this, it's quite possible that the whole topic would have dragged on for years and years and years without anything being done. So I like to think that we've opted for something that has a bit more promise than sitting by the side. So we agree the next stage of feasibility work has set out. We approved the £200,000. We hope it won't all be spent, but there's a bit of margin there in case it needs to be. And we give authority for the MOU, which I think I'm excited about the MOU because that is concrete proof that we're trying to do something. Not prejudging it, but we're trying to do something. So are we agreed? Oh, another comment.
Well, I was just going to highlight that one of the risks is the effect of the change of government. And did I see something today suggesting that the Minister of Health is reviewing the hospital building programme? So I suppose, you know, my question is there, do we need to keep an eye on that thread as well?
To answer that. Yeah, I think that's a very good point. Which is why, to be fair, the officers did highlight it as a threat, because obviously there's the new government is coming with very ambitious policies, housing and health are two of them. So it is something we need to keep an eye on, and certainly as officers, I know we're already having these conversations, and they will be feeding back to members where they feel that there is, you know, a necessity to add, change or add to the project paper. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, similarly, thank you, William. There's always things, there are always, and particularly with the new government, there are always announcements coming out that we need to be aware of. But just as in other areas of what we're planning to do as a council, sometimes we have to carry on keeping the momentum up on what we're trying to do. Because if we stop doing everything because we wondered if there might be another offer or another opportunity, then we'd probably end up doing nothing. So I'm really happy that we carry on with this, and I think it's as much as anything, regardless of what the government does on the new hospital programme, we need to do something with Hemel Town Centre, and we need to do something with health services in Hemel. We need a bigger GP surgery. We need, you know, more dentistry capacity. So there's umpteen reasons to continue with this feasibility. So do we agree to do this?
Agreed.
Very good, thank you. Moving swiftly on to the productivity plan. I think Aidan is going to introduce this item.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Hopefully quite a straightforward paper, but just a very brief reminder of the genesis of this. So back in April, the then Minister for Local Government commissioned all local authorities to respond with a brief paper outlining their plans to improve productivity within their council. The brief was broad, so we were allowed and encouraged to respond to it however it kind of suited us, but with some guiding questions. We've approached the task positively. I think the intended output for government was to understand common themes, common challenges, opportunities, perhaps reflect on central government's potential role in helping us tackle productivity challenges. The paper sets out the work that we're doing, drawn from key strategies which have previously been approved around this table, whether they be transformational, commercial, or indeed elsewhere in the organisation, and also sets out 3 areas where we feel government could help with that productivity challenge. You won't be surprised to see that they are things like multi-year settlements, a move away from competitive bidding for central funds, and just the general challenge that while the funding gap increases or the funding squeeze increases, and we pick off all the low-hanging fruit, actually you need more and more you need an initial investment to unlock productivity improvements, and unfortunately there aren't big pots of cash sitting around that we can readily use for that. So as I say, it's set out in the report, and subject to cabinet approval, we will then submit it to government.
Yeah, thank you for that. Any comments around the table? No. My only comment is a concern that the cumulative effect of people now having to say MHCLG when they refer to the department, which is much slower to say than DLUC, will lead to a loss of productivity. Do we agree with the recommendation?
We do. Agreed.
Lovely, thank you. And moving on to item 10, which is the tenancy strategy. And that's Councillor Diani or Darren Welsh.
Happy to say quick lines and then we can explain the policy. So it's the housing strategy, tenancy strategy set out for 4 years. It's a legal requirement to have one, and it just set out the rules. How do we deal with our tenancies? For example, secure the introductory tenancies. How do we work with successions? And I think it's literally just a clarity around each and every step in the tenancy on that document. And I think I would want to recommend this to be agreed, but I'll pass it to Darren first.
Thank you very much. And just to, not very much to add to that, but just to thank Natasha and Paul Hunt, our Housing Needs Manager, who've done all the hard work into reviewing this strategy, and we're happy to answer any questions the Cabinet might have on it. But many thanks to them.
Very good.
Well done.
Thank you for being here. And thank you for being here, and congratulations everybody in the housing on being such a good department. I won't say any more than that, but you know what I'm saying. So if there are there any questions? In that case, we'll take the recommendation and we'll approve the tenancy strategy until 2028.
Agreed.
And on to item 11, which is provisional outturn report on financial outturn for 2023-24. So, Councillor Capote.
Straight to Nigel. I'd hate to steal anybody's thunder.
Incredibly short and sweet. As a provisional outturn went to all 3 scrutiny committees last week and went through that and reviewed that in a lot of detail. So I have nothing else further to add to the report, other than overall financially a strong year for us in 23-24, and hopefully we'll carry that on into 24-25. We do have areas of concern that are outlined in the report and areas that we need to work on. It is not a perfect picture, and we have some areas, particularly treasury management, that at the moment are supporting us, but that's not the long-term solution. So from that perspective, we're in a good position, but still work to do going forward.
Chair, if I may just say congratulations to Nigel and Catherine and the rest of the team for the submission of the report. And the quality of the report that went in as well for the outturn of the year. So that should not go unnoted. Thank you.
Well done.
I would just caveat, purely jumping Claire Dempsey do all the hard work.
I take all that back.
Catherine just
Got a really big calculator.
it is very much appreciated though.
Fantastic. I mean, just the quick comment on finances is bedrock. Unless we have solid finances, then we can't do all the imaginative, exciting, stuff that we want to do. So a council is very much that sum of its parts, isn't it? Of the solid base, but also the imagination and the hard work and the teamwork that we try and foster. And not just the teamwork in the space, but also the desire to work for this council. And it's all built on sound money, and it's all built on those tough decisions that councillors sometimes have to make that they don't really want to make, but they do it. Thank you very much. Shall we, we'll approve that, approve the recommendations 1 to 6.
Agreed.
Thank you. And on to sports pitches, the last item, sports pitches project, which is back to Councillor Wilkie and James, and this relates to the Hemel Hempstead School Mooga pitch.
Thank you, Chair. James, I'm sorry, yes, I don't know if there's any comments you would like to make specifically.
Chair Julie Abbey Taylor will just give us a quick introduction. Perfect.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry to interrupt. Can I just check, are we going into part 2? Part 2 paper?
We're going to try and avoid going into part 2 by not mentioning anything that's in part 2. Yeah, we feel confident we can do that.
Thank you. I will try and keep it very brief on the assumption that you have all read the report. There was a lot of debate at the portfolio holders meeting, so I'm hoping we have captured all the questions that were raised there. As members know, this is a historic legacy project. I just want to point out that obviously this was the tender was procured through a framework, and that we have Alliance Leisure as were appointed as the development partner. So there is a recommendation before you, 3 recommendations. I just want to point out that there is a numerical error in 3.14 on point 2. The agreed budget to date was 580,000, not 530, and we are seeking an increase of 93,000 still, so that takes you up to 673. So I just wanted to clarify that. But the recommendation obviously is before you to appoint and award the contract to Velocity Sports, and there is the programme in the report. So if it is approved this evening, then we would expect the contract to spend August mobilising all of their work and their constructions subcontractors, with work commencing beginning in September to the beginning of November. There is, in terms of the usage, a dual use agreement that hasn't quite been finalised, but there are no showstoppers on either party's side. But that agreement, as we discussed at the portfolio holders meeting, was obviously to set out the legal framework for the use of that, and that it would be 35% of the school and 65% for the community, and that this project obviously helps to meet a significant shortfall of all-weather purpose pitches that there is currently in the borough. So I'm happy to take any questions or points of clarification.
Okay, I have no questions. Just to say that children are at school for a short period of their lives, and if they haven't got the facilities, that's quite a big downside. So I think it's really good to get this project over the line and done. And I think we all agree, but Councillor Wilkie.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I agree with your point entirely, and I just wanted to say thank you to Julie and Oliver for the work they put in, because it is important that we get this completed and properly tied up, so I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
Chair, can I just confirm then, so recommendation 2 would increase, the budget would increase to 673, yeah, just for the minutes.
Noted. Okay. All agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed, thank you. So I think that probably brings us to the end.